Something on the lens.
So you want to build a farmhouse table, but you've never done it before and you're a little bit resistant, a little bit hesitant, maybe a little bit scared of doing it. That was me. Never done it before. So my goal for this video is to take out some of that mystery and the fear so you can build your very first farmhouse table. Hey, what's up everybody? I'm Mosbey and welcome back to the channel. And in this video, we're actually continuing the series on building this farmhouse table. This is actually part 2. And yes, I wish I was sitting at the farmhouse table, the actual table that I built. I think the intro would be a lot better, but obviously I'm back at the shop. The farmhouse table is actually in the beach house condo and you have me stuck on this surface, which is my table saw table. Who cares? But hey, that's not gonna stop us. In this video, we're gonna show you step by step and my method of how I built the tabletop. I had some help with a friend of mine, but I went over to his shop and I'm gonna show you all the steps that we did. We built a great tabletop and I was a little nervous at first, but it came out so great. That's probably why I'm doing this video. If you didn't see part 1 or part A on how I built the trestle table bases, go check that out right up there. And I'll also leave a link in the description. But before we get started, if you're into this DIY and how-to stuff, please consider subscribing to the channel. Click that little notification bell so you get updated whenever I post a new video, and give it a great big old thumbs up. Let's go build a tabletop.
First step is use the joiner to take off the rounded edge. Next, arrange the 5 2x8s in the form that you want it, kind of identifying where the knots are and where maybe the chips are, and get those out of there so that you can cut off the ends. Once you get your boards arranged how you like them, mark them with some blue painter's tape right down the middle, and that will show you exactly what order that you're going to put them back together in. Before gluing things together, lay out where all of your dominoes are going to go. As you can see, we use some blue tape to lay out where all 20 dominoes are going to go. I used a total of 20 8 by 50 by 22 millimeter dominoes. Here's what one of the domino holes looks like. Be sure to spread out the glue using a roller or just your finger, because you want that entire edge surface covered before you do the glue up. So now we put all 5 2x8s together and held them together with 5 pipe clamps. Some of the boards came pretty warped, so we're literally going to try to bang this thing out and flatten it out the best that we can. Once we got it how we liked it, we stood it on its edge and left it overnight to dry. Alright, so this is the next morning and I'm using his very fancy Festool track saw, and we're just cutting off the ends and getting the table to the length that I wanted, which was 77 inches. Alright, so now I'm back at the house and I'm using the belt sander with some 60 grit and just taking off the high sides, starting the process to level out the whole entire tabletop. This process took quite a while and several passes over and over. It's quite the forearm workout. So here I'm going to take a long ruler and hold it flat against the tabletop and mark where the table is actually touching the ruler and looking where you can actually see daylight. And then we're going to come back with the sander and knock off those high sides. I had to do this process 6 times until the table was completely flat. So the table had all these great knots all over it, which gave it a lot of character, but some of the knots were just full of holes, lots of holes, deep holes. So I had to take some epoxy, mix it up, and pour it into the hole. Sorry about my hand being in the way, but you get the idea. And I just went around the whole entire table. Anywhere there was a hole or a rough spot, I would fill it in. and then we will come back in just a minute and we'll sand all that off. So here's a picture of one of the knots completely full. You want to fill it all the way over the top because you're going to come back and sand it all the way down. But this is what it looks like with the epoxy in it, completely dry. So I'm finally through with the belt sander. I'm going to switch over to the palm sander and jump up to 120 grit and go over the table and get it super nice and smooth. At this point, I'll also use the palm sander to apply a little bit of a round over edge to all 8 sides of the table. So now we're just going to use the air compressor and knock off all this dust and go around the table and look real close and see if we can find any rough spots, and then come back through with the sander again and really clean those spots up. A good tip is to use mineral spirits over the whole entire table before you put your finish on. This will just help out with, because wood has turpentine in it, so this will actually help clean and cleanse the wood before you apply your finish. So now you're ready to put on your first coat finish. Now I grabbed a Minwax Golden Pecan and I'm going to open this thing up. And I looked at it and I was like, man, this thing looks really, really red. This is the first time that I'm seeing it. And so what you can't see in the video is my expression and my concern that this color isn't gonna, it's not what I wanted. It was gonna show up like really pinkishly red. And I was very hesitant about applying it to the table. I thought that I had screwed up or that something was messed up with the finish itself, with the stain itself. But I went ahead and applied the first coat over the whole entire table, and then you'll see what happens in a minute. So does the table look a little bit different right now from where I finished? Yeah, because whenever I put this pecan, this golden pecan on the table, it came out like super red, and I did not care for it. Showed my wife, did not care for it. She didn't like it at all. It was like pink on the table. Well, you saw it. And so this morning I came back and right on top of it, I just put this classic gray right over the top. And we were looking for this ashy type color. And I couldn't be more impressed. I couldn't like it even more. Showed it to my wife. She loved it. Like, yes, that's the color that we want to go with. So now what I'm going to do is go over it with about 4 or 5 coats, maybe 6 coats of poly, sand the top of it down, and we'll be done, and then we can mount the table, okay? Let's go. All right, so what we have here, we've got Minwax wipe-on poly. You want to use a wipe-on, and just an old t-shirt works great instead of a shop rag. So now I'm going to go over the entire table very thoroughly, very slowly with 320 grit, and just go over it by hand. I'm not actually going to use a sander. This is just going to be done by hand, and I'm going to be scanning as I go, really just picking up on any kind of just rough spots and just fine tuning it basically.
All right, so that's 320 grit. Done by hand, just fold it in half and go over the whole table. So this had 4 coats of poly on it and dried, and now just a little light sanding across the top. You can see it's got that little bit of it dulled it down a little bit. And now we're gonna go back, kind of just wipe it down, and then do another couple of coats of poly and make sure that we are like real smooth. I'm just checking, you saw me checking with my hand, just to make sure there's no rough spots in it, nothing catches, especially along the edge. We don't want any fingers catching on anything. And so went around the whole table, and it's super smooth. Should be like a little bit dusty, just a little bit dusty. That's the way it should look. Looks great. This is just the cloth that I was using to apply the poly, but I'm using it to get all this dust off first around the whole table.
Once I get the whole table wiped down, now we're going to take the poly and we're going to apply a single coat of poly.
I find it easier just to pour it out on the table. Then kind of go in a circular pattern, back and forth pattern, just to kind of spread it out a little evenly. Then start doing circles. That 320 sandpaper gets it real smooth, glassy. We'll do another coat after this. After this one dries, see how we feel.
All right, so there's the finished product showing the tabletop with the table bases all put together. It came out great. And hey, if you made it this far, thanks for watching. Way to hang in there. Consider subscribing to the channel, give it a big thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next video.